My name is Weston Stroud. I'm 24. I'm a transit planner here in Macon-Bibb County. Before this, I worked as a zoning officer and a planning intern in the Macon-Bibb County Planning and Zoning Office. And then prior to that, I graduated school from Syracuse University, where I studied environmental policy and urban design.
What high school did you go to? Are you from Macon?
Yeah. So I went to Mount DeSales. Um, that was the middle school and high school that I went to, and then for elementary school, I went to St. Peter Claver.
Well, just talk a little bit about why you wanted to run to be on the Board of Commissioners.
So there's a few different reasons as to why I wanted to run, but one of the first reasons was in 2018 when we had the big budget crisis, and when I was working at the Transit Authority, my job was up in the air, and through that process, I one realized how much the decisions of our policymakers affect me, as well as our local elected, our local populations. When we think about the various citizens who rely on public transportation, who are so affected by it, and the people that rely on the library as a sense of information, um, just the various communities affected by that crisis, it kind of put the burden on me to start looking at local leadership and seeing, how things are going and how I can help improve. And so, just through the time of living here in Macon and being back from school and seeing all the things that have been happening that are good and positive, but also seeing the disparity as well, and knowing that there are options and there are tactics that we can take to help start addressing these issues. And I just felt like leadership wasn't acknowledging them, and it wasn't taking action. So I figured, why sit on the sidelines?
So, what are some of the biggest issues in the community that you think need to be addressed?
So there's a myriad of issues, but one of the first ones I want to start with is public safety. And public safety has a lot of different ways that we can address it. One of the things that I'm super supportive of is the idea of crime prevention through environmental design. You can help remediate crime just through having adequate lighting, having adequate eyes on the streets. So the more lively that your community is, the more that people are able to watch the street and to then feel comfortable in their community. So just little investments that we can make with infrastructure, as well as pushing a complete streets policy where we think about designing for cyclists, for pedestrians, and just for other forms of transportation outside of our personal vehicle. Um, Another issue that I'm focused and bent on addressing is our zoning codes. Right now, we have commercial areas and then we have residential areas, and years before that type of setup, it worked. But as we're starting to see, as cities have developed, we now need more progressive zoning policies to accommodate the loss of grocery stores, the loss of retail, the loss of different businesses. And the only way to really do that is to start addressing some of the zoning policies and issues that we have. So if we could create more commercial opportunities within our neighborhoods and residential areas, then that can incentivize bringing back the neighborhood grocer, right? Because now the overhead cost that is typically associated with having a commercial space is cut to nothing, because now it can be a space that you live in and work in, and you can start bringing resources back to communities that have historically seen divestment. So we got to have progressive zoning policies, and we have to address street structure and address that in a way that can help accommodate the growth that we expect. And so the areas that I really want to focus in, they're already kind of lined out in the policies that we have. We have economic community development target areas. And in my district, District 2, it's the east side of Macon, like Fort Hill, the south side, so Houston Avenue. Um, and so these are some areas that we know could use investment and could benefit from having progressive zoning policies to begin to attack blight and to attack divestment that's been happening in the area. So by having policies that allow for new opportunities, we have new resources back to our communities.
Um, do you have any plans or ideas, I guess, when it comes to blight? I know that's been kind of a big issue across Macon-Bibb for the last couple of years, at least that I've been here.
Yeah. So when I was talking about progressive zoning policies, the places that we have to do that at are these target areas. In 2001, we acknowledged these areas as some of the areas that have the highest rates of blight, have the highest rates of crime, and that relationship between blight and crime is there. We've seen that those two are tethered together. There's a whole theory of criminality that's based off of blight and the broken window theory, where small crimes end up culminating to bigger crimes, where they become property crimes like vandalism, that then becomes loitering, that then you may have someone who's facing housing insecurity that lives in these blighted properties. So the way that we can begin to bring investment into the area is to have progressive zoning policies, because there's a lot of costs associated with taking these homes and putting them in the land bank, because you have to go through the legal procedures, and then you also have to pay for those legal procedures, and then the administrative procedures to find whose property it is. So having progressive zoning that allows for businesses to kind of be the ones to be on the forefront of turning these blighted properties and turning these newly vacant homes into something more than kind of what we see them as. But we also have to address that with street structure. So using tactical urbanism in areas that are experiencing high blight. And tactical urbanism is just a low-cost way that we can make the urban environment, our neighborhoods, more livable, more walkable, and generally more pleasant and enjoyable. So if we can take that approach to areas that experience more blight, and we think, how can we make this area more livable, then we can incentivize the growth that we want to see. So then we can have investment into areas that have historically seen divestment. But we have to have a plan for the area when we start talking about attacking blight. We knocking down homes and then creating vacant lots that we have to maintain. That's a neutral move. We didn't add to the quality of life. So we always want to think of how we can pour in when we address the issues at hand.